Hello guys, and welcome back to another review. Today I'm going to be covering two movies that recently dropped on Netflix, Chickenhare and the Hamster of Darkness, and The Sea Beast. To cut to the chase, I decided to review two movies in one video because I just unfortunately don't have too much to say for Chickenhare. I remember seeing pictures of it last year teasing that it was still in development, and I liked what I saw initially. I had no idea what it was, nor did I know that it's actually based off a graphic novel of the same name. It finally released on Netflix last month, and sad to say it, but I'm just not really a fan of it. Let's take a look. It tells the story of a rabbit who is literally named Chickenhare, discovered abandoned by his adopted father, Peter, after he goes adventuring with his brother Lapin, who was looking for a powerful artifact that could grant anyone power to control, hamster spirits or something. But anyway, Chickenhare is literally born as a half-hare, half-chicken hybrid, and grows up wanting to be just like his father, an adventurer. But of course, he feels like he doesn't fit in because he thinks he's a freak, so he puts on fake hair paws to try to blend in, but his clumsiness ends up making him look more like a fool in front of everyone. His uncle, Lapin, is actually evil and tried to take over the kingdom so that he could be king, but he ended up getting into prison that way. Chickenhare is overly curious about the Hamster of Darkness, which is talked about in a book that Lapin has, and tricks him to get closer to his cell, in which he plucks a feather from his head at the last second to break out of prison. Now, with the location of the artifact in his sights, Chickenhare goes on an adventure with his royal servant Abe the Turtle, and meets a skunk named Meg, as they try to race their location to beat his uncle. This movie is basically your average cookie-cutter adventure story, which also feels very Indiana Jones. Abe is the generic, sarcastic sidekick who always complains about what the characters are doing and always has something smart-ass to say. It gets old really quick. Meg is a generic kick-ass girl who has a ton of skills. She taught herself to be that way because, well, nobody wanted to be around her. And Chickenhare is just a bland protagonist. He goes through that typical character arc of thinking he's a freak because of what he is, and has to learn how to embrace it. As soon as he was being bullied by that one hare and chicken, you already know where it was going to lead to. And of course, him slipping out from the castle to go adventuring behind his father's back, only because his father doesn't want him to, it just comes off as tired. I will at least say the animation is decent for what it is. It's certainly no Disney or Pixar, but the team behind it managed to do pretty well despite that. There's some nice lighting in some scenes, and the fur texture is pretty well done. However, the character designs themselves are a little bit iffy at times. They don't look bad per se, but they end up coming off looking like leftovers from Zootopia or something. So it doesn't entirely look that original. Hell, for a second I thought Abe was Verney from Over the Hedge, and Chickenhare looks like a male version of Judy Hopps. As the movie goes on, you meet different characters, such as the annoying screw-up minions that tag along with Lapin, the villain, which, I mean, of course. The part in almost every adventure story where a huge clan of little creatures team up and take our main characters in, like the Kakamora from Moana, for instance. You know the trope. Except here, it's just a bunch of pigs that are stacked up like cubes and they kind of form together? I suppose it's creative and they can do neat visual gags with them, but they just stood out like a sore thumb, like they didn't belong in this world. And speaking of tropes, it also has that cliche of hero needs to retrieve back item in a sneaky way and gets caught at the very last second. That's the thing with this movie though. It tries to set up key moments in the plot, but then you just see it coming in your head a mile away. It just makes the movie come off as nothing special, which is unfortunately how I felt as it went along. It at least had somewhat of a decent climax, with a lot of action being displayed, but again, I just wasn't all that into it. At least they didn't do the fake-out death? That's something, right? Listen guys, I'm sorry for being so negative with this one, but this movie is like the most 2002 thing I've seen all year. It feels like something that would be somewhat acceptable in the early 2000s, and not in 2022. Chickenhare and the Hamster of Darkness is unfortunately going to get a light 5 out of 10 for me. Well, shame about that one, but I can't love every movie. It's still much better than, that, but I still wasn't a fan of it. Oh well, at least we have The Sea Beast. I wonder how that one is. The Sea Beast is a movie I barely knew about. I only saw a brief clip of the trailer on Twitter one day. I simply saw it as another Netflix movie and said, yeah, I'll probably check that out. Looks cool. However, upon its release, it has been met with a bunch of positive reviews on Twitter. Lots of people are saying that it's something that you shouldn't miss and that it's a true gem. Let's take a look. The movie is about a group of hunters out in the sea, taking orders from the king and queen of the crown. We follow Captain Crow, a man who wants to take revenge on a creature called the Red Bluster. He took in a little boy affected by her damage and raised him to be Jacob, his son. They spot the Red Bluster from afar, but are distracted when another crew member's ship is under attack. They report back to the king and queen, who grow tired of their commitment and intend to do things their way. However, Jacob, wanting to speak up due to him eventually becoming a future captain, makes a deal with them that they will hunt it first and continue their business, and if they fail, then they can do whatever they want. That is, until a little girl named Maisie sneaks onto the ship. She is a young orphan whose parents died while fighting the beasts, and when they come across the red bluster again, she actually frees it after it was constrained, seeing that it was in pain. After they become separated, she comes to the conclusion that the beast isn't trying to hurt them, but rather just trying to defend herself, and calls her Red. She just starts to doubt all the stories she read about the hunters and how dangerous the monsters are, wondering if they were even true to begin with. And while Jacob continuously displays self-doubt about himself and thinks she's wrong, he is continuously proved wrong himself as she continues to bond with the creature more and more. Meanwhile, Captain Crow makes a deal with a witch of some kind to give him a weapon that can leak poison into the monster's body, but for a heavy toll. This isn't brought up in any meaningful way, and it doesn't really have a conclusion. Anyway, the monster does end up getting captured. Captain Crow sees that Jacob isn't on his side anymore and starts a sword fight with him, Jesus. And Maisie exposes the king and queen to everyone that the stories were all made up to cover up their own fear. The people of the kingdom tell the king and queen to listen to the child, and the commander in charge puts down their weapons. Jacob and Maisie leave with Red, and Captain Crow gives up hunting. Happy ending. Alright, so the good. The animation and character design are pretty good. In fact, it's really good. The action scenes in particular is fantastic. Lots of great camera work and sweeping angles. It really does a good job of having a big sense of scale and weight to everything. The characters also have pretty good dramatic moments as well. I like Jacob's talks with Captain Crow, when they confronted the king and queen, how Maisie talks about her self-doubt with the stories, and also her speech at the end. It was all really well done. However, what drags this movie down for me a bit is when they end up becoming separated. From that point on, it basically becomes How to Train Your Dragon. You know the story. A clan of people fight dragons, and a young kid wants to fight them too. However, he meets a dragon who is apparently the most dangerous one of them all, but Ashley ends up connecting with him. So he thinks that maybe dragons aren't all that bad. But of course, his father doesn't want to hear it, and a big fight ensues. Conflict. It's kind of the same here. Sure, things are changed up a bit here and there so that it's not an exact copy, but I just couldn't help but notice the stark comparisons. Especially with Red's design, the sea beast herself. Her skin is way too smooth. She has mascara around her eyes, and her teeth are very dull and chunky. Think like Stitch's teeth, or hell, even Toothless. It's meant to be marketable, you know, cute for the posters. She just ends up coming off as a female Toothless to me. Speaking of marketable, they also come across a small baby creature who Maisie ends up naming Blue. Yup. This thing panted like a dog at one point, and I don't know, is it me, or am I getting sick of the whole cute pet animal sidekick that acts like a dog? It isn't in the movie that much, thankfully, but all of these combined, especially with Jacob's character devolving to the "you don't know what you're talking about, kid" type, it definitely got to me. Now, with all that aside, the movie is still good. I still enjoyed what I watched, and it's definitely worth checking out. I just couldn't help but feel off about the things I pointed out, and it ended up affecting how I thought about it overall. And again, that whole witch side plot, it could have been a pretty cool inclusion, with Captain Crow's desperation of wanting to kill the monster ending up becoming his own fate. You know, as he falls under a curse or something. Trying to murder a creature will only end up getting himself killed. But nope, they stab Red, but then take out the harpoon that they got from the witch, letting loose all of the poison, just because he wanted to kill Red right in front of the king and queen to prove a point that the hunters will always be superior. It's almost as if he didn't even need to go to the witch at all. Oh well. Overall, I still recommend The Sea Beast. Visually, it's pretty great, and putting the How to Train Your Dragon stuff aside, it's a good enough adventure movie with stakes and scales to keep you entertained. I'm giving it a light 7 out of 10. And that's my double movie review. I hope you guys ended up liking this video, and if you did, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Tu bois son dit